Okay, in this video we're going to talk about graphing trig functions. So we've got our three basic trig functions that we've been talking about, sine, cosine, and tangent, and we need to talk about what their graphs look like. So this is the graph of a sine function. Notice how we still use an x and y, and it starts at 0. That's what sets the sine function apart from the other two. It starts at 0, and it's going to go in a wave. It's going to go up to 1 and down to 1. This is the basic sine graph. And it's going to go to 360. This is what we call a period. The period of the sine graph is from 0 to 360. Period just means the amount of degrees it takes to complete one cycle of a sine graph. Positive 1 is going to be our maximum, negative 1 is going to be our minimum. And notice how it kind of hits a maximum at 90 degrees, and then it comes back down and hits the x-axis at 180, bottoms out at 270, it comes back at 360. Our x-axis going straight through the middle is what we call the midline. Okay, so let's talk about some characteristics of this graph. So we have where it increases. Well, if you look at it, it's going to increase, the domain of it increases between 0 and 90. So we would say x is increasing between 0 and 90. It's also increasing, if you look down here, between 270 and 360. Where is it decreasing? Well, it's decreasing from here to here. So we can say our domain is decreasing from 90 to 270. Where is our domain positive? Well, everything from here to here is positive. So we say that it's positive between 0 and 180. And it's negative between 180 and 360, everything that's below the x-axis. So again, this is your sine graph, and those are its characteristics. The sine graph is the one that starts at 0. So let's go ahead and look at the cosine graph. Cosine graph has some similar characteristics to the sine graph in that it's a periodic graph that has a period of 360, still functions around the midline. In the basic graph, it still has a max of 1 and a min of negative 1. But notice, unlike the sine graph, this time the cosine graph starts at 1. That's what designates them from each other. Sine starts at 0, cosine starts at 1. So for this, we're going to start up at 1, cross the x-axis at 90, bottom out at 180, come back up at 270, and top out at 360. Again, with a period of 360. So let's talk about the characteristics of this one. This one is increasing from 180 to 360. It's decreasing from 0 to 180. It's positive from 0 to 90 and 270 to 360. And it's negative from 90 to 270. All right, we have one more trig function and one more graph. This one looks a little different. Our tangent. Okay, so this time we've got some asymptotes in there. Remember, an asymptote just means it's where a function is approaching 0. So this one has two asymptotes, both at 90 and at 270. I've extended this graph beyond 0 and 360 just to show you that it would continue. They would all continue, but I didn't show it on the others. So here, it kind of goes in waves, and it does stop. It's not a continuous graph. It is periodic, but the period of this graph is shorter. It's only 180 degrees. You'll notice that our only fully functioning one here is from 90 to 270, and if you subtracted 90 from 270, you do get a period of 180 degrees. But it still has characteristics. When is it increasing? It's always increasing. Consequently, it's never decreasing. When is it positive? It's positive from 0 to 90 and from 180 to 270. That's within one period. If we kept going, we could say beyond that. When is it negative? From 90 to 180, it's negative because it's below the x-axis, and also from 270 to 360. So those are the graphs of your three basic trig functions.